to the Scary Show, the home of grunge storytelling. I never knew about the supernatural secrets of my father's family. Hell, I never believed in ghosts and demons. I always considered those stories to be depicted from hallucinations from psychedelic highs of hippies. But living in Sebastian County changed everything. It all started on September 18, 1976. My wife and I had just said our vows at the St. Joseph Orthodox Catholic Church on the hillside of Charleston, Arkansas. Everybody was headed over to Sadie, my wife's parents' house, for the reception, which was just a couple of blocks down the dirt road where the church was. She and I were so excited to be married finally. Sadie and I have been together for 7 years, and every day it feels like the first time we met. She always takes my breath away with her ebony beauty and her quick-witted mind. Very intelligent and very beautiful inside and out. I was also glad that my great-grandmother Lucinda was able to join us on our day. It meant the world to me. After all, she and my parents played a major part in my upbringing, so it was an honor to have her sitting at the table with us. But what was a wonderful evening turned strange. Granny Sin, as I would often call her, suddenly felt ill. It was like she couldn't talk and blood started oozing out of her mouth. Then she started speaking in a language that I had never heard of before. After the paramedics got there, she was taken to St. Edward's Hospital, where she was placed in hospital room 328. While resting in bed with cords hooked up to her body, she turns her head and looks at me. Slowly and softly, she says the judges have come to collect their prisoner, or what should have been their prisoner. I was wondering when they would find out the truth. The truth about what, Granny Sin? I asked her. You'll know more if you pay attention to your dreams, but I must leave you before he gets even angrier than before, she said solemnly. Then, out of nowhere, a red rope of fire was wrapped around her neck and choked the rest of the life she had. All that was left of it was a black mark on her neck. Sadie and I both got scared out of our minds, so we rushed out of that hospital immediately. The next day, my family came over to our apartment on Yorkshire Ave and wanted to go over the funeral arrangements with me. Of course, I was honored at the fact that they wanted to include me, so we decided to set a date for Friday. My dear, sweet Granny Sin will be buried at the Nixon Cemetery next to her husband, Grandpa Charles, who was my grandpa's father. It's crazy how we as humans can exist on this earth for 1 minute and be gone the next, as if we never existed at all. You'll have to come down to your Granny Sin's house with me and help me clean out everything next Saturday, my father said in a sad, soft tone. There are a lot of things I need to show you and talk to you about. Like what, Dad? I asked him. The full explanation of everything that you saw happen to Granny Sin. There's a lot you don't know, my son, and it's time that you did know, he said. I just took a deep breath and nodded my head in agreement to go with him to Granny Sin's house next weekend. Even though it was supposed to be me and my newly wedded wife's honeymoon week, we decided to postpone for another time. At the wake, we all gathered around reminiscing about the memories we all had that involved Granny Sin. Then, we all took turns looking at Granny Sin for the last time and sang our final goodbyes as she was on her journey to the other side. I was the last to view her while she was lying peacefully in her coffin. As I gazed at this beautiful, elderly, strong black woman I knew and loved, I noticed the mark on her neck disappearing before my eyes. I just took it as my imagination wishing and hoping it was gone. So I started to speak to her, saying how much I loved her and how much I was going to miss her. All of a sudden, I felt a strong grip on my necktie. Then I was pulled in closer to her corpse. I could hear her whispering in a raspy yet forceful voice, almost like she was being choked to death, except she was already dead. "Leave Sebastian County now. You hear me, Greg? No good come for you, I'll be in there. Leave now. Stay away," she said. I jumped back, almost falling on my back out of fear and shock. I looked around and noticed that no one was noticing anything. It was like what I had just witnessed was all in my head. Or was it? Sadie saw that I was still shaken from the experience I had just had and rushed over towards me. "Baby, you all right?" she asked. "Yes, sunshine, I'm all right," I said. Of course, I call her my sunshine because she was. At this time, she was my main source of comfort. Saturday morning came along and my dad and I took a drive down to the dirt roads to Fort Smith, Arkansas. From there, we reached our destination, which was Granny Sin's house. It was a small white house with a gate a few blocks down from the old courthouse and the area where the hangings were performed in the name of what the old folks called justice. If you ask me, a lot of that justice was unjustly done. But that's just my opinion. 2 rocking chairs, where Granny Sin and Grandpa Charles would sit and watch the children play outside, were still sitting on her front porch untouched. We entered Granny Sin's home, where the smell of mothballs and Bengay lingered. Pictures of the people before me and my dad existed on this planet were hung on the walls like an art gallery of our family history. The air inside Granny Sin's house felt heavy with the weight of secrets, as if the walls themselves held on to the echoes of a dark past. The creaking floorboards beneath our steps seemed to murmur the stories they had witnessed. My father led the way through the dimly lit area in Granny Sin's walk-in closet, where there was a locked door. He took out of his pocket a skeletal key that was designed to unlock it. He opened the door. I could see there was a small, dusty room that was adorned with ancient symbols, and old journals and picture albums were opened on a weathered wooden table. My father motioned for me to sit. The eerie echoes of our history whispered through the air as Dad and I delved into the secrets of this hidden room, and the journals unveiled the dark history of our family, exposing the full extent of the curse cast by the vengeful judge Isaac C. Parker. The past wasn't buried. It was concealed within these walls. The secrets held by Granny Sin, our matriarch, were the key to unraveling the malevolence that haunted us. As we explored, supernatural phenomena intensified. Ghostly apparitions and eerie sounds echoed through the 4 walls of this room, evidence of the judge's lingering presence. Strange occurrences escalated, casting a shadow over the family history we thought we knew. The room seemed alive with the echoes of the past, every creak, every whisper. It was as if the spirits of our ancestors were trying to communicate something crucial. My father's face was etched with the gravity of the revelations he was about to share. He began to speak, The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows on the wall. He recounted a tale of forbidden love, betrayal, and a curse that transcended generations. The story unfolded like a nightmare, revealing the sinister involvement of Judge Isaac C. Parker and the twisted events that led to Granny Sen's tragic demise. The cursed tapestry of our family's history, woven with threads of forbidden love, betrayal, and a vengeful judge, cast a dark shadow over Granny Sen, Grandpa Charles, and now the entire family. The origins of this malevolence lie in a tragic tale that unfolded decades ago, leaving a legacy that will continue to haunt each generation of the Kennedy bloodline unless someone puts an end to it. Granny Sen had a very close childhood friend that she had while she and her mother, your great-great-grandmother Emma, were living in the Clayton house. Her name was Evelyn Clayton, the daughter of Judge William Henry Harrison Clayton. She was a very beautiful and kind woman who was adored by many of the people here in Fort Smith. Many men wanted to marry her, but her eyes were always set upon your great-uncle Arthur Kennedy, he said. From the way Granny Sen spoke about Evelyn and Arthur's relationship, it was meant to be, but this love happened at the wrong time. For you see, son, it was heavily frowned on for certain people to marry anyone of color. Evelyn's social status is that she was the daughter of a well-known and highly admired parents. She was unable to marry the man she loved. Instead, her father set her up to be married. Isaac Christopher Parker, who later on became known as the hanging judge in this city and Evelyn's husband, caught Evelyn and Arthur together near the banks of the river, embracefully kissing each other underneath the pale moon sky. Isaac Parker, a man of power and influence, sought to maintain his standing in the community. When he discovered the forbidden love between Evelyn and Clayton and your great-uncle Arthur Kennedy, his rage knew no bounds. Fueled by a desire to preserve his social status, the judge made a sinister pact with a prisoner named Bill Hobbs. So in order to end things and keep his high status in the community, Judge Parker struck a deal with Bill Hobbs to kill Evelyn and made it appear as if it was a struggle to steal from her. This not only resulted in Evelyn's death, but led to Uncle Arthur being framed for crimes he didn't commit. The judge's dark machinations were set in motion, leaving a trail of sorrow and injustice. The judge enlisted the help of two other criminals, Bill's brother, Timothy Hobbs, and Redmond Levitz, whom the town knew as Wildfire, to carry out his nefarious plan. In exchange for aiding the judge in framing Arthur, the Hobb brothers and Wildfire sought a pardon for their own crimes of bank robberies and $15,000, which was the bounty that was set on the men before they were captured. They did everything that the judge ordered them to do and planted the evidence on Uncle Arthur so he would be charged for the dirty deeds they committed, including the murder of Miss Evelyn Parker. On September 15th, 1878, Uncle Arthur was found guilty. The punishment was to be hanged in the gallows of Fort Smith. I remember Granny Sen telling me that she had a visit from the ghost of Evelyn, telling her who really killed her and that Arthur was framed. In the beginning, she thought it was just a dream, but she found out otherwise. Grandpa Charles was working for a farmer man named Samuel 𝗭𝗭𝗋𝗋. Mr. 𝗭𝗭𝗋𝗋 was known to offer his home to travelers who needed a place to stay. On the week Uncle Arthur was set to be hanged, Grandpa Charles overheard Timothy Hobbs and Wildfire talking. This whole conversation revealed everything that had happened in detail to Evelyn and the judge's involvement in the crime. They helped the judge so they could be pardoned for the bank robbery convictions they had under their belts. When Grandpa heard this, he rushed over to where Granny Sin was and told her what he'd heard. It was then she knew that what she'd witnessed wasn't a dream, but a warning. She went to Aunt Carol and told her what she'd witnessed and what Grandpa Charles heard. Your Aunt Carol, who was a natural witch, tried to cast a spell on the judge to not only unveil the truth, but also kill him instead of their brother. Of course, it did work, but not in the way you would expect. He mentioned the truth to his maid, and she only took it as a joke. A few minutes later, Judge Parker was found dead in his office on October 31st, 1878, several hours after Uncle Arthur was hung. Now his house is haunted by the essence of Aunt Carol's spell, and so is the gallows of Fort Smith, Arkansas. As my father spoke, I felt a chill in the air, and the pictures on the wall seemed to watch us with silent judgment. The room itself seemed to resonate with the sorrow of past injustices. The truth was more terrifying than any ghost story I had ever dismissed. The judge, now a malevolent force, had woven a curse that ensnared our family in a web of darkness. October 31st, the day Uncle Arthur was hanged, was also my wedding day, and the day my dear sweet Granny Sin passed away. My father handed me one of the tattered family journals, its pages filled with incantations and rituals passed down through the generations. He spoke of a ritual that could sever the judge's grip on our family, but it required sacrifices that no one had been willing to make until now. I could tell Granny Sin was attempting to cast these incantations. This must have been why the wrath of Judge Parker ended her life before she could finish the work. As the words lingered in the air, a distant howl echoed through the house, a haunting reminder of the looming presence that awaited us in Sebastian County. The weight of responsibility settled on my shoulders, and I knew that the coming days would test the limits of my courage and the strength of our family bonds. We must visit 3 places tomorrow, said my dad. First, Salem, Arkansas, then the gallows, and finally, the Nixon Cemetery. We have to do this together, son, he said. There was a lot of worry that plagued my brain. I knew nothing of the metaphysical world nor the supernatural. Hell, I seldomly ever went to church. But now, I must go face to face with the spirits of the other world. Sleep became a portal to another realm, a realm where the judge's curse held sway. Each dream was a puzzle piece, and I had to decipher the cryptic messages they carried, but I was determined to stop the curse. The next day, as the sun cast long shadows over the aging town, my father and I gathered the necessary materials for the ritual. We took a quick trip to the Witcherville, commonly known as Salem, Arkansas, and sought out a local expert in supernatural phenomena. In our quest for knowledge, we encountered a mysterious figure, shrouded in shadows, who held the key to unraveling the dark magic that bound our family. All of Sebastian County held its secrets, and my dad and I were about to uncover them. In the shadows, I found someone who knew the ancient language of curses, a guide into the abyss we were facing. Our bloodline was tainted with betrayal, secrets, and deals struck with entities beyond our comprehension that went further back before Uncle Arthur ever existed in this world. Each revelation deepened the darkness we faced, Our quest led us to ancient artifacts and rituals that could break the curse. The journey took us through the history of Sebastian County, where old documents, diaries, and local legends pointed towards a ritual capable of banishing the judge's spirit. Sebastian County held the answers, buried beneath the layers of time. The documents spoke, and the legends guided us towards the eerie truth that awaited in the shadows. On our way to the Nixon Cemetery, which was part of Franklin County, we knew we would be safe. The sky was only a few hours away from sunrise, so we had to act fast. It had already been 2 days since my dad and I went to Salem. Now we were in Charleston, Arkansas. I was exhausted, and I was missing my beautiful wife. There was a job that needed to be done. We needed to get the hairs of my family members involved in the curse, so we had to dig up Granny Sin, Grandpa Charles, and Aunt Carol, and get samples of their hair. The air felt charged with an unsettling energy, and the atmosphere seemed to thicken with every step we took towards Nixon Cemetery. The gravestones, weathered and leaning, whispered tales of the departed, as if urging us to reconsider the path we were about to tread. The cemetery, bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun, held an otherworldly beauty that belied the darkness lurking beneath its surface. I reached Granny Sin's resting place, where the solemn silence hung in the air. Armed with newfound knowledge, we were confronted by the demonic spirit of Judge Isaac C. Parker in the abandoned courthouse that sat behind the gallows. I must say, it was definitely an eerie setting for a supernatural showdown. The judge, in his ghostly form, sought to manipulate the situation, bringing forth a twisted sense of justice. As I stood face to face with Judge Parker, I could hear the galloping of horses riding in, and out of the corner of my eye, I could see more spirits appearing. These were the men who backed Judge Parker during his reign in office. But then, I saw the Hobb brothers and Wildfire in a group of these evil entities. I could tell who they were because I saw their old bounty poster. This was not going to be an easy battle. We needed to gather the rope that was used to hang Uncle Arthur in order to break the spell. I made an attempt to get the rope from the gallows. After I got it down and rushed it towards the car, I turned around and saw my father hanging by the same type of rope Granny Sin had around her neck. I didn't have time to take him down and save my own life at the same time, so I ran and got in the car. I drove to an abandoned field that was next to the Oak Cemetery, where Uncle Arthur was buried. It was there I decided to perform the ritual. I created a bonfire, speaking incantations and tossing the articles that were gathered into the fire. The ritual began, an ancient dance between the living and the spirits of the past. The incantations resonated through the quiet graveyard that was next to the door to the courthouse, and the wind carried the weight of our desperate plea to break free from the curse that bound us. Through the darkness, I could see the judge and his men riding and waiting for me to fuck up so they could collect my soul. As the ritual reached its climax, the atmosphere grew tense, and an otherworldly wind rustled through the surrounding trees. Shadows danced across the gravestones, and the air seemed to vibrate with an unseen force. I felt Granny Sin's presence as her spirit was being set free from the chains of the curse. A mixture of love and sorrow ignited the air. The sacrifice required by the ritual demanded a toll on our family, and I could sense the weight of the decision I saw in my father's eyes when we were in Granny Sin's house. Suddenly, Sadie appeared from the shadows, having followed me to the cemetery. Her eyes, once filled with warmth and love, now held a glimmer of fear and concern. She pleaded with me not to go through with the ritual. Sensing the danger that loomed, my heart wavered, torn between the love I felt for Sadie and the responsibility to free our family from the judge's wrath. As the incantations reached their crescendo, the ground beneath us quivered, and an ominous presence enveloped the graveyard. The judge's spirit manifested, a spectral figure with hollow eyes that bore into our very souls. The air grew thick with tension as the judge's ethereal voice echoed through the cemetery, vowing retribution for our defiance. Justice must be served, and the blood of the guilty stains the hands of the innocent. The curse shall unfold, revealing the depth of their sins. I am the arbitrator of justice, even in the afterlife, said the judge. In that moment of chilling confrontation, I faced an impossible choice: to proceed with the ritual and risk the safety of those I loved, or to abandon the attempt and let the curse persist, haunting future generations. The weight of destiny pressed upon me, and the outcome remained uncertain as the judge's vengeful spirit loomed over us, casting a shadow over the oak cemetery. In a heart-wrenching moment, 𝗬𝗍 willingly pushed herself into harm's way, becoming a crucial part of the ritual to weaken the judge's power. Our love, a powerful force, played out in a poignant farewell. I'd rather face the shadows with you than live in a world where you're haunted by them. Our love transcends this life, Greg. Remember that, 𝗬𝗍 said, as the ritual unfolded. The judge, even in his demonic form, manipulated the situation to bring forth a twisted sense of justice, forcing me into a moral dilemma. The judge's version of justice twisted my understanding of right and wrong in that moment. I had to decide to break the curse or submit to a malevolent justice that echoed through the ages. The battle left me emotionally scarred, haunted by the residual consequences of the curse and 𝗬𝗍's sacrifice. In the wake of that otherworldly confrontation, the scars ran deeper than visible. 𝗬𝗍's sacrifice echoed in the corridors of my heart, a constant reminder of the twisted justice we faced. I went to our apartment to see if I could get some rest, but first, I needed to shower. And after doing that, I noticed in the trash a pregnancy test. Had 𝗬𝗍 lived longer, we would have had a baby, but it was too late. She was gone, and so was everyone else. Another price to pay when you're in Sebastian County. Tonight's 𝗬𝗍 was written by Wicked Majesty, narrated by The Scary Show. If you enjoy the stories you find here, hit the like button. Think of it like applause at the end of a show. Please subscribe and click the top bell for all notifications so that you never miss an episode. And if you wouldn't mind, share this video so that others can discover The Scary Show. Questions, comments, suggestions? Let me know down below. The Scary Show always answers the fans, unless YouTube hides your comments from me.